impact through our investments and broader ecosystem activities. Now that the digital infrastructure is in place, we're getting into the digital golden era. An era where inclusivity of the digital ecosystem brings solutions and were developed and delivered commercially at scale. Nevertheless, it is not only a commercial return, it is a matter of impact. We believe it is sustainability. East Ventures upholds a sustainable investment strategy within a two-pronged approach of doing good and avoiding harm. We are leading the way as Indonesia's first venture capital firm to sign the Principles for Responsible Investment, supported by the United Nations. This is well aligned with the government's priorities in Indonesia's G20 presidency to succeed in sustainability through SDGs. And here is the impact journey ahead. Establish a robust management and measurement system to ensure accountability. Then work closely with portfolio companies and its ecosystem to better measure and scale their impact. We are mapping and tracking the impacts created by our ecosystem for truly contributing to SDGs. We also look forward to working with like-minded investors who care about sustainability. With the support of the governments and businesses, we believe we would further develop the country. Walk together with investors to create a scalable impact on the broader society and ecosystem. Now, with a strong determination to focus on ESG and pursue SDGs objectives, we invite you to join us as the agents of change.
Gentlemen, welcome to the launch of a white paper, Genomics, Leapfrogging into the Indonesian Healthcare Future. Genomics has the potential to transform the healthcare system, particularly one in our country.
What other capabilities that we have built so far in the past 10 years as the investor of digital ecosystem, and how can we put this together to act really fast? Because speed is really key during the crisis. Indonesia digital economy has been one of the leading one now, and everybody actually envy how we have built this digital infrastructure. We always talk to Pak Budi, and Pak Budi always give us 4 pillars, he say. When we want to make sure that BGSI can be successful, there are 4 things that we have to remember. The first one is infrastructure. The second one is funding. The third one is human capital. And the fourth one is policy. Infrastructure, the launch of today's white paper is the first step for us to identify what's going on in Indonesia, to understand the problem statement, and we did this research together with our partner Rachmat.
So every crisis, well, you can see from a dangerous angle, you can see also from there will be a great opportunity for us to move forward. So that is the reason why the Ministry of Health of Republic Indonesia see this as an opportunity to do major reform. We have designed 6 major reforms, and one of them is reform in healthcare technology, including healthcare biotechnology. And that is, I believe, where East Ventures can play a role to see these windows of opportunity during crises and leapfrogging into the new era of healthcare systems in Indonesia.
We are going to also announce our healthcare funding specifically to help the program of the genomics and also healthcare in general.
In 3, 2, 1. And thus, ladies and gentlemen, the white paper, Genomics, Leapfrogging into the Indonesian Healthcare Future, has been officially launched.
Welcome to Women with Impact event. This program is initiated by East Ventures with collaboration with Zendit and also supported by Base, Mindtera, and Legit Group. We are having this event to make forum for women to network, and we want to also ensure that some initiative in making workplace is a more diverse situation is happening. We want to learn from the speakers here what are their interaction in having burnout in the company setting, their personal experience, and what can we do as a professional and as a leader so we can ignite stress in workforce before it gets into the stage where we cannot function anymore.
How I determine like what is definitions of burnout, maybe just illustrate a little bit of a rubber. When it's elastic, but the moment you pull and stretch it further, there's a moment of almost break. I think that's like how I define, because burnout doesn't mean like not like stretching. Stretching is good, but stretching it too hard that it actually breaks and make you not functioning in your day-to-day work, that's bad.
I was thinking of it more like actually really of a candle. You could be slowly like, of course, you have a limited amount of energy, which is your like candlestick. The light sometimes burns hotter, sometimes it burns less. I think maybe the pulling of the rubber feels like when, you know, there's winds and, you know, pressure around you that makes the flame a little bit flicker and smaller. And burnout is when that flame is extinguished, right?
Burnout is by when you do so much and then you actually just ended up in a point where you no longer are willing to do it anymore. I think some of the symptoms that I look is that support system, people that knows you and identifies you as well, that you are actually passing that point. It's actually a very helpful system to getting out of the burnout itself.
And that's the explicitly asking for help part, because I felt like my candle was burning thin and I didn't know how to like build it, so I said, do it for me. So I think giving people the space to feel okay to say no is also another important factor.
Rather than doing a 3-4 mini experiments and nothing work, it's better just pick one, like drop it. I think that is sometimes that we as a founder forget that yes, we want to dream big, but you know, like we kind of need to balance everyone, when it's actually to focus, when it's to experiment, when to push people and want to give it a break. You want to make them understand that sometimes we give you slack, but you need to cover to your friend. Like that's like the collaborative culture you need to set up. Like you can deserve some breaks, but you need to find out who can cover for that when you need to have a break.
Even though it was like a very short time, but there was a lot of return on that short break.
When someone is tired, right, and you are a founder and you are tired, you need to actually get your motivation back, right? And sometimes like it's like if it is something that is reasonable, something that you are giving to your employee anyway, this is something that's also like the founder as a member of the organization deserves to get as well.
Over the years, We have become more intentional about creating positive impact through our investments and broader ecosystem activities. Now that the digital infrastructure is in place, we're getting into the digital golden era. An era where inclusivity of the digital ecosystem brings solutions and were developed and delivered commercially at scale. Nevertheless, it is not only a commercial return, it is a matter of impact. We believe it is sustainability. East Ventures upholds a sustainable investment strategy within a two-pronged approach of doing good and avoiding harm. We are leading the way as Indonesia's first venture capital firm to sign the Principles for Responsible Investment, supported by the United Nations. This is well aligned with the government's priorities in Indonesia's G20 presidency to succeed in sustainability through SDGs. And here is the impact journey ahead. Establish a robust management and measurement system to ensure accountability. Then work closely with portfolio companies and its ecosystem to better measure and scale their impact. We are mapping and tracking the impacts created by our ecosystem for truly contributing to SDGs. We also look forward to working with like-minded investors who care.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to see all of you here today. Please join us and have a seat inside the room. Should you need any assistance, please do not hesitate to contact the nearest committee to guide you. We will start the launch of Climate Impact Innovations Challenge 2023 shortly. In the meantime, enjoy the day.
As the agents of change.
Gentlemen, welcome to the launch of a white paper, Genomics, Leapfrogging into the Indonesian Healthcare Future. Genomics has the potential to transform the healthcare system, particularly one in our country.
What other capabilities that we have built so far in the past 10 years as the investor of digital ecosystem, and how can we put this together to act really fast? Because speed is really key during the crisis. Indonesia digital economy has been one of the leading one now, and everybody actually envy how we have built this digital infrastructure. We always talk to Pak Budi, and Pak Budi always give us 4 pillars, he say, when we want to make sure that BGSI can be successful. There are 4 things that we have to remember. The first one is infrastructure. The second one is funding. The third one is human capital. And the fourth one is policy. Infrastructure, the launch of today's white paper is the first step for us to identify what's going on in Indonesia, to understand the problem statement, and we did this research together with our partner Rachmat.
So every crisis Well, you can see from a dangerous angle. You can see also from there will be a great opportunity for us to move forward. So that is the reason why the Ministry of Health of Republic Indonesia see this as an opportunity to do major reform. We have designed 6 major reforms, and one of them is reform in healthcare technology, including healthcare biotechnology. And that is, I believe, where East Ventures can play a role to see these windows of opportunity during crises and leapfrogging into the new era of healthcare systems in Indonesia.
We are going to also announce our healthcare funding specifically to help the program of the genomics and also healthcare in general.
In 3, 2, 1. And that's, ladies and gentlemen, the white paper, Genomics, Leapfrogging into the Indonesian Healthcare Future, has been officially launched.
Welcome to Women with Impact event. This program is initiated by East Ventures with collaboration with Zendit and also supported by Base, Mindtera, and Legit Group. We are having this event to make forum for women to network, and we want to also ensure that some initiative in making workplace is a more diverse situation is happening. We want to learn from the speakers here what are their interaction in having burnout in the company setting, their personal experience, and what can we do as a professional and as a leader so we can ignite stress in workforce before it gets into the stage where we cannot function anymore.
How I determine like what is definitions of burnout, maybe just illustrate a little bit of a rubber. When it's elastic, but the moment you pull and stretch it further, there's a moment of almost break. I think that's like how I define, because burnout doesn't mean like not like stretching. Stretching is good, but stretching it too hard that it actually breaks and make you not functioning in your day-to-day work, that's bad.
I was thinking of it more like actually really of a candle. You could be slowly like, of course, you have a limited amount of energy, which is your like candlestick. The light sometimes burns hotter, sometimes it burns less. I think maybe the pulling of the rubber feels like when, there's winds and, pressure around you that makes the flame a little bit flicker and smaller. And burnout is when that flame is extinguished, right?
Burnout is by when you do so much and then you actually just ended up in a point where you no longer are willing to do it anymore. I think some of the symptoms that I look is that support system, people that knows you and identifies you as well, that you are actually passing that point. It's actually a very helpful system to getting out of the burnout itself.
And that's the explicitly asking for help part, because I felt like my candle was burning thin and I didn't know how to like do it, so I said, do it for me. So I think giving people the space to feel okay to say no is also another important factor.
Rather than doing a 3-4 mini experiments and nothing work, it's better just pick one, like drop it. I think that is sometimes that we as a founder forget that, yes, we want to dream big, but like we kind of need to balance everyone, when it's actually to focus, when it's to experiment, when to push people and want to give it a break. You want to make them understand that sometimes we give you slack, but you need to cover to your friend. Like that's like the collaborative culture you need to set up. Like you can deserve some breaks, but you need to find out who can cover for that when you need to have a break.
Even though it was like a very short time, but there was a lot of return on that short break.
When someone is tired, right, and you are a founder and you are tired, you need to actually get your motivation back, right? And sometimes if it is something that is reasonable, something that you are giving to your employee anyway, this is something that's also like the founder as a member of the organization deserves to get as well.
Over the years, We have become more intentional about creating positive impact through our investments and broader ecosystem activities. Now that the digital infrastructure is in place, we're getting into the digital golden era. An era where inclusivity of the digital ecosystem brings solutions and were developed and delivered commercially at scale. Nevertheless, it is not only a commercial return, it is a matter of impact. We believe it is sustainability. East Ventures upholds a sustainable investment strategy within a two-pronged approach of doing good and avoiding harm. We are leading the way as Indonesia's first venture capital firm to sign the Principles for Responsible Investment, supported by the United Nations. This is well aligned with the government's priorities in Indonesia's G20 presidency to succeed in sustainability through SDGs. And here is the impact journey ahead. Establish a robust management and measurement system to ensure accountability. Then work closely with portfolio companies and its ecosystem to better measure and scale their impact. We are mapping and tracking the impacts created by our ecosystem for truly contributing to SDGs. We also look forward to working with like-minded investors who care about sustainability. With the support of the governments and businesses, we believe we would further develop the country. Work together with investors to create a scalable impact on the broader society and ecosystem. Now, with a strong determination to focus on ESG and pursue SDGs objectives, we invite you to join us as the agents of change.
Dear all distinguished guests, welcome to the launch of Climate Impact Innovations Challenge 2023. Please remain in your seats as we are about to begin the event shortly. Thank you for your attention. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, honored and distinguished guests. My name is Siska Becker. I'll be your MC for the next few hours, and it is my utmost pleasure to welcome you all to the launch of the Climate Impact Innovations Challenge 2023, organized by East Ventures and Temasek Foundation in this beautiful Rumah Kaca Melati at Hutan Kota by Pelataran. Before we proceed, we also like to thank all partners who have supported this event. To our investor partners, Telkomsel Mitra Inovasi. To our challenge partners, Bibit, Fore, Google, Clarico Communications, Liberty Society, Hutan Kota by Pelataran, Sociola, Tech in Asia, World Resources Institute Indonesia. And also to our outreach partners, 7.5 Degree, Block 71 Indonesia, DailySocial.id, Ecosystem, Impact2, Katadata, Kinobi Indonesia, KR Asia, Malaysian Research Accelerator for Technology and Innovation, Techno Global, and Thai Startup. Thank you so much for all the partnership. For your information, the launch of Climate Impact Innovations Challenge 2023 is also live streamed through the website at www.climateimpactinnovations.com. Of course, you can find more information regarding this program on the website climateimpactinnovations.com or through our Instagram at CIIC_C. So first, please allow me to welcome everybody who have joined online via YouTube. Welcome to the launch of Climate Impact Innovations Challenge 2023. Ladies and gentlemen, to start our event, I would like to kindly ask you to please rise from your seats so we can sing our national anthem, Indonesia Raya. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, now please allow me to give you a bit of a background of the reason we are gathered here today and also the information about the programs that will be participating throughout the event. Increased emissions from human activities is the leading cause of global warming, of climate change, and it has brought us to the current state of environmental challenges. This phenomenon has far-reaching consequences, affecting not only our environment, but also the human health and even the economic stability. Global leaders are increasing their focus on reducing emissions, and Indonesian leaders in particular are pushing for greater share of renewable in our energy mix. This is because Indonesia has an abundance of renewable energy sources spread across its lands, including geothermal energy, hydropower, solar power, biomass, and wind power. This year, Ventures and Temasek Foundation initiated the Climate Impact Innovations Challenge, the largest climate innovations tech platform in Indonesia. This challenge provides opportunities for climate tech innovators to showcase their sustainable innovations in overcoming ecological challenges and mitigating the impact of climate change. The teams will compete in 4 tracks: renewable energy, food and agriculture, mobility, and ocean, for a total prize pool of 10 billion rupiah. Now this prize pool, yes, of course, you can put your hands together for this amazing challenge. I'm sure lots of you are very excited, and they can use this prize pool to pilot their solutions within Indonesia and also to receive global exposure, to be granted access to investors, and of course, many other perks and benefits. Now, after the launching ceremony that we'll be witnessing together, we will also have a discussion panel on the topic From Idea to Impact, Navigating the Climate Innovation Landscape, with speakers from various backgrounds who will share their experiences according to their fields. At the end of the session, we can then enjoy lunch together while networking with all the other guests. And now, to start our event, Please give a warm welcome and round of applause for our first speaker, Mr. Lim Hock Chuan, Head Programs at Temasek Foundation.
Pak Rachmat, Kaimuddin, Deputy Coordinating Minister for Infrastructure and Transportation, Pak Sawono Kusumamacha, Chairman of the Advisory Council for Climate Change Policy, Ministry of Environment and Forestry. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to all of you. First of all, let me warmly welcome you to the launch of this inaugural Climate Impact Innovation Challenge, jointly organized by East Venture and Temasek Foundation. I want to specially acknowledge and recognize the support we have received from Pak Luhut and the Coordinating Ministry for Maritime Affairs and Investment for the CIIC. I also want to thank and acknowledge Pak Rachmat for agreeing to be our guest of honor this morning, and for Pak Sawono for joining us this morning. Thank you very much, Pak. My name is Lim Hock Chuan. I'm the head of program for Temasek Foundation. Temasek Foundation is the philanthropic arm of Temasek, a global investment company based in Singapore, headquartered in Singapore. We fund translational research and we deploy catalytic capital in the space for sustainability and livability. We help innovators bring their innovation and research from the lab into the community to produce goods and services that will benefit the community. Climate change poses challenges for all countries across the world. Decarbonization continues to be a very pressing issue, with energy use accounting for 3/4 of the global emission. The ocean, which is the world's largest carbon sink, is also seeing a dangerous tipping point with rising sea level, acidification of the ocean, and pollution of the ocean. As a result of these changes, we are experiencing more frequent extreme weather events with increasing frequency and increasing severity. All this put a strain on our food production system, and Indonesia and Singapore we are not spared from this. So as a response to this impact caused by climate change, the Temasek Foundation is partnering East Venture to launch this Climate Impact Innovation Challenge. We believe that with Indonesia's vast resources of human and social capital, the CIIC will be a very valuable launching pad for emerging disruptive climate innovation. The CIIC will provide opportunities for innovators to showcase their innovation and subsequently scale it for full commercialization and market adoption. So I'm very pleased to announce that the Temasek Foundation is offering a total prize money of 10 billion rupiah in 4 tracks for these innovators to develop fully operational prototypes and pilot their solutions in Indonesia. The 4 tracks are ocean, renewable energy, food and agri-tech, and mobility. In addition to winning the prize, this innovator will receive assistance in gaining access to investors, collaborators, as well as regional exposure. This way, we will be able to maximize our impact to improve the sustainability and livability of our cities and our planet. So on this note, I will say that we look forward to receiving many applications for the CIIC, and may the best innovation win. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Long Hock Chuan, for your warm welcome. And now, for the next welcoming speech, please welcome Mr. Willson Cuaca, co-founder and managing partner of East Ventures, onto the stage.
Good morning, everyone. And for friends from abroad, welcome to Jakarta. I would like to welcome Pak Rachmat Kaimuddin, Deputy Coordinating Ministry of Maritime and Investment Affairs, Pak Sarwono, Chairman Advisory Council for Climate Change Policy, Ministry of Environment and Forestry, Boon Hyung, our friend, CEO of Temasek Foundation, Ngurah Sawana, our friends also from Singapore, former Singapore ambassador, Indonesia ambassador for Singapore, Lim Hock Chuan, thank you, and Pak Amrin Amin, corporate development of Temasek Foundation, Pak Triawan Munaf, our venture advisor, media friends, all speakers, panelists, partners, and Temasek Foundation and its ventures team. It is my honor to welcome all of you today at the launch of Climate Impact Innovation Challenge organized by its Ventures and Temasek Foundation. I'm so glad that today we are healthy, happy, full of energy, as we are taking steps and action towards mitigating the effect of climate change. A few things that I want to touch. On per capita basis, World Bank data shows that greenhouse gas emissions are higher in the developed countries such as US, Australia, China, but the whole globe warmed as a result. Countries in Southeast Asia, which possess fewer resources, are set to suffer bigger losses disproportionately. Rising sea level, like what Hock Chuan has mentioned, heat waves, drought, and more frequent and severe rainstorms pose a significant threat to both the agricultural economy and low-lying coastal area in Southeast Asia. And Southeast Asia faces a dual challenges. First, we were hit by the climate change with regards to food production, maritime activities, and others areas. And second, we must also alter our development strategy in renewable energy and mobility that are increasingly contributing to global warming. However, we believe that there has been a significant progress being made. Coming off a low base, venture capital funding for climate tech companies in Southeast Asia saw a rapid increase in the last 5 years, majority in Singapore, some in Indonesia. Against this backdrop, East Ventures and our close friend Temasek Foundation present the Climate Impact Innovation Challenge today. This platform connects investors, entrepreneurs with innovative solutions to address some of the greatest problems facing by our cities in the 21st century. As a venture capital firm, and since the first day of East Ventures, we believe that we're creating impact. It was in our DNA. We don't just measure it, but since 2 years ago, with the leadership of Avina, we think we have to make impact and we have to quantify the impact that we made. Today's challenge, as Hock Chuan has mentioned, will be split into 4 tracks: renewable energy, food and agriculture, mobility, and ocean, and designed to support the main priority of Indonesia government in mitigating the climate change. One of the examples to promote the use of renewable energy, such as geothermal and hydropower, and has set a target of reaching a 23% shares of renewables in its energy mix by 2025. We do our best to support the Indonesian government to reach net zero emission by 2060 or earlier. And I would like also touch a point about friendship. Just now I mentioned that Temasek Foundation is our close friend. A true friendship will be shown when you are in trouble. In good time, everybody is your friend. Back in 2021, when Delta variant hit Indonesia, we need oxygen badly. The best and quick solution was oxygen concentrator machine. And the whole world fight for that machines. Temasek Foundation play a big part in securing the supply of that machine from China for Indonesia, coordinating the financing of it, and work closely with the local stakeholder to distribute it in Indonesia. Pak Rachmat, team and Ministry of Marves definitely play a very big part in the local ecosystem. We were lucky to be part of it. East Ventures and the East Ventures ecosystem, and working closely with Temasek Foundation. 3 days after we talked to Boon Hyung, the first batch of oxygen concentrator arrived in Jakarta, and within 4 days, we distributed into 33 hospitals in Indonesia out of 10 provinces. This has happened because of close collaboration. It's amazing, actually, to see how far and how quickly we can do this together. And together, you know, we can do things very far and very, very big. And this is the semangat gotong royong of Indonesia. So I would like also to thank Temasek Foundation for such effort and being a close friend to Indonesia. And we hope that today Climate Impact Innovation Challenge will be another great collaboration among us, and we have to make it as a big success. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Willson Cuaca, for your opening remarks. And now we will prepare for the ceremonial event that will begin shortly, marking the official launch of the Climate Impact Innovations Challenge. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this ceremony will represent the 4 tracks of the Climate Impact Innovations Challenge. The first is food and agriculture. Climate crisis and unpredictable weather continue to threaten the sustainability of food systems. And then renewable energy. The transition from fossil fuels to cleaner energy is crucial as industries race towards net zero goals. And then mobility. Connectivity between urban and rural communities needs to be balanced with a low carbon transportation and logistics system to ensure greenhouse gas emissions are reduced. And then ocean. An ideal blue economy resonates with sustainable use of ocean resources for economic growth and improved livelihoods while conserving the health of the ocean ecosystem. We will have 6 representatives joining us on stage to do the launching ceremony to officially mark the launch of the Climate Impact Innovations Challenge 2023. So now we kindly invite back to the stage Pak Willson Cuaca, and we also invite Mr. Rachmat Kaimuddin, Deputy Coordinating Minister for Infrastructure and Transportation Coordinating Ministry of Maritime Affairs and Investment, and also Mr. Sarwono Kusumatmaja, Chairman, Advisory Council for Climate Change Policy, Ministry of Environment and Forestry, Mrs. Avina Sugiarto, Partner of East Ventures, Mr. Lim Hock Chuan, Head Programs of Temasek Foundation, and Mr. Ng Boon Hyung, Chief Executive Officer of Temasek Foundation. Now, before we proceed with the launching ceremony, we will have the first photo opportunity. At the first pedestal for food and agriculture, we have Mr. Willson Cuaca and Mrs. Avina Sugiarto. Everybody is situated already behind their pedestals. We have Mr. Rachmat Kaimuddin also on the second pedestal. And then that means we can have, to begin the first photo opportunity, Mrs. Sarwono Kusumatmaja and Mr. Lim Hock Chuan and Mr. Ng Boon Hyung are also located behind the pedestals. Ladies and gentlemen, please be ready for the first photo opportunity before we begin with the launching ceremony. Our friends from the media, please take picture of this proud moment as we're about to begin the launching ceremony. Everybody please look to the front. 3, 2, 1. Okay? Has everybody taken the pictures yet? If we are, then I can begin with the instructions on how each of the pedestal will be launching the ceremony. For the first pedestal, food and agriculture, Mr. Willson Cuaca and Mrs. Avina Sugiarto, the food and agriculture track is symbolized through pouring water to the vegetable pot. Now, for the second pedestal, renewable energy, Mr. Rachmat Kaimuddin, the renewable energy track is symbolized through pushing a button on the power plant to turn on the propeller. For the third pedestal, mobility, Mr. Sarwono Kusumatmaja, this mobility track is symbolized through plugging in the electrical motorcycle charging. And then last, the fourth pedestal for ocean to Mr. Lim Hock Chuan and Mr. Ng Bung Hyong. This pedestal is symbolized through pouring sand into the fishbowl. Okay? Are we all ready to witness this historical moment? Everybody, make sure you have your smartphones ready. This is the moment we've all been waiting for. Let the challenge begin. Let's begin the countdown. 3, 2, 1. Give a big round of applause, everybody. Climate Impact Innovations Challenge 2023 has officially been launched. Congratulations. Now this also marks that registration is now officially open. Now to everybody on stage, once again, congratulations. We will now have another photo opportunity. Mrs. Avina, could you please kindly stay on stage? Could you please now step next to the pedestal so we can have another photo opportunity for our friends from the media. Now that the challenge has been officially launched, of course, this now marks the proud moment for all of us, as finally participants can now join this challenge. For everybody who's not holding a smartphone in their hands, may I please ask you to put your hands together one more time. Congratulations once again. Thank you. You may return to your seats. Thank you, everybody on the audience, for witnessing this amazing moment that we've been very excited about. Thank you for sharing with us this historical moment. Together, we just witnessed the ceremonial event of the Climate Impact Innovations Challenge. Now, for our audience, both who are present in this room and who also joining us online, this means you can join us in the fight against climate change. Please make sure that you apply to the Climate Impact Innovations Challenge today and help make a real impact on the future of our planet. For more details, you can find it on the website climateimpactinnovations.com, or make sure to follow our Instagram at CIIC_C. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we are ready to proceed to the next session of our event. Please welcome Mr. Rachmat Kaimuddin, Deputy Coordinating Minister for Infrastructure and Transportation, Coordinating Ministry of Maritime Affairs and Investments, onto the stage. Please welcome him with a round of applause.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning everyone. Our seniors, Pak Sarwono, Pak Triawan, Pak Ngurah, also colleagues from Temasek Foundation, Mr. Bun, Mr. Lim, colleagues from Miss Venture, Willson and the team, as well as colleagues from GenZero, Frederick and the team, and all the media and every attendance, honored guest. Thank you for having us here. First of all, allow me to express the regret of Pak Luhut, who was supposed to be scheduled to be here, but unfortunately today he has to accompany the president to North Kalimantan. So unfortunately you'll get a poor substitute of me here. But this is his presentation, and I will try to do justice of what is hopefully relevant for this discussion, for the challenge moving forward. And we also hope that this will also give some inspiration for the attendants or the participants of the challenge. So, first of all, what we want to, maybe on every audience here is very familiar, but we need to keep reminding ourselves that Indonesia is a very strategic country in terms of climate change and the effort to grow this green economy. It's in itself has large size, strategically located, and also very rich in natural resource endowment. 17,500 islands, 280 million people, located in a very strategic sea lanes, as well as, largest nickel, one of the largest tin reserves, bauxites, copper, critical minerals, as well as very huge potential renewable energy. And this number is actually, I would believe it's an old number and will keep increasing more and more as we do more and more study. But of course, Indonesia doesn't have, it also has its own challenges. What we need to remember that Indonesian economic development is not equal across the country. Sometimes we joke that a lot of Indonesian economy is like, you dig, you pick, you cut, you catch, right? Gali, petik, tebang, tangkap. That is what we also do. So what we try to assess here is that when we see which ones or which areas that actually have very low extractive industries in the economy, we only see Java and North Sumatra. The rest is actually relatively high in extractive energy. Again, gali, petik, tebang, nangkap. And that can be quite dangerous for climate as well. Once you open more forest, blah, 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 practically you emit carbon. So historically, when you look at Indonesian historical emissions from 1850 to 2021, Indonesia as a geographic is actually probably number 5 emitter in the world. About 100 gigaton over that past 170 years. But 85% of that actually comes not from fossil usage, but it's actually coming from land use. And that is one thing that is clear to us, is that we need to make sure that our people can get good jobs without having to cut down trees, simply. This is Pak Luhut's favorite slide every time in the global thing, global net zero. So we also need to remember that not all countries are created equal. Even among the G20 countries, Indonesia actually have half of the global per capita emission today. And the rest actually come from mostly G7 countries. And basically a lot of these G7 countries has benefited from burning fossil to increase their economy. And today, when we are trying to do the same thing, we cannot anymore, because it's already full. The emission, the atmosphere is already very, very saturated with CO2. So we need to make sure that we need to reduce carbon emission, but we also have to remember that, if we are family in this world, there are someone who's already mature, adults, and there are some people who are actually still young, like the children. And these are the kind of communication that we keep telling our friends from more developed countries, that it cannot be done business as usual, because some people benefits more than the rest in terms of this emission. That being said, Indonesia wants to do its part. However, whatever that we need to do, for today, we need to ensure that we still develop our economy. So economic growth is a must-do, is our red line, because we still have a lot of issues in Indonesia. We still have children who are malnourished and have stunted development. Education can be improved and whatnot, and that requires a lot of funding, a lot of capital for the government. And typically, if you grow economy, very, very high correlation that you will increase energy use. But what we want to break is the correlation between energy use and increased emission. It doesn't have to be one-to-one correlation. And that is one thing, and that's, I guess, most of the people here want to do as well. And if you look at the energy transition, how to break this energy use and emission, typically there are two buckets that we need to look into. One is about power generation. How can we generate electrons in a less emissive way? But also on the other side, how can we use energy in the end-use activities. For example, our transportation maybe not use fossil anymore, but electric vehicles. How can we use more technology to burn non-carbon fuel so that non-emission in the hard-to-abate industries? All those things need to be done and has to be done concurrently in order to reduce emission. We are also, Indonesia is also one of the countries that ratified Paris Agreement, and this is very public. We have our NDC across multiple sectors: agriculture, waste, industry, forest and land use, energy, and we keep improving our commitment from time to time. So our original NDC was national effort, 29% reduction from business as usual. And only last year, we increased it again to 32%. And then with international support, 41% to 43.2%. And again, we are also very cognizant that Indonesia is still a developing country, and we are open for basically global cooperation to support us in our net zero effort. One of the also most important thing to remember is that Indonesia is endowed with the very rich resources in carbon. Hydrocarbon, basically oleocarbon, as well as basically coal as well. So whatever that we need to do, we need to ensure that this transition should not stunt our development and also should create new jobs. And there's a lot of opportunities to do so. So we see that if we do this transition, there will be new jobs created, even though there will be some jobs lost. So net-net, we are still positive. However, we need to make sure that these are the right people, because the place or the geographical location of these jobs may be different from before. Oh, careful. Okay, so what is the government currently thinking for this net zero, this green economy? There are 5 things that we are currently working on very intensively, and of course this is not a comprehensive list. More and more we keep adding the pillars of the green economy. First is that we want to decarbonize our power sector, and one of the largest initiatives that is what we are currently working on is what is announced in G20, Just Energy Transition Partnership. The originally $20 billion between 3 to 5 years that we want to do for decarbonizing our power sector. The other thing that we want to do is to develop low carbon transportation sector, and the focus is actually on EV. And you've heard some of this announcement that government of Indonesia will create an incentive for adoption of EV. Alternative fuel is something that we are very, very seriously look into as well, given our natural resources. Green industry, the batteries, EV value chain, and also carbon sinks. In terms of mangrove, in terms of forestries, and any other types of carbon sinks. These are kind of related to the 4 pillars that we just saw, and hopefully will be aligned with whatever the results of this challenge can be connected to the government effort as well. So on the power sector, basically this is the slide that we show to our international partner group. We said, what are JETP compliant projects? And we said, okay, first of all, we need to think whether there's a possibility to retire fossil fuel power plants, so early retirement. Okay, so very highly emissive fossil, we retire early, we replace the demand with renewable, for example. Second thing is, and there are needs sometimes that you will burn fossil or you emit carbon. We need to think of how to capture carbon, CCS, CCUS technology. This is also quite important. Next is infrastructure and grid, because renewable sources are like mining. You cannot move it, and the demand may not be the same as the supply. So you have to have very strong cables, infrastructures, grids, and also the system. Because a lot of this renewable have variable nature, intermittent. And sometimes we jokingly think like, anyone who just push for solar and wind, maybe if we connect your office and you only get electricity when the sun shines and the wind blows, you raise your hand, I will do that. So, but you need base load. You need to ensure that the electricity is stable during the day. We need to do more and more renewable. So renewable energy power plant is obviously need to be done. And not least importantly, we need to create renewable energy value chain in Indonesia. Because Indonesia is a very big country, we actually endowed with energy, and we should not allow energy security to be lost. For example, we cannot depend on all our electricity coming from imported goods. That will be dangerous, especially when things happen like COVID last time, supply chain get disrupted, then there's a risk that we should not take. So these are the kind of projects that we are looking into, and we are looking for support, funding, and investment in here. Some may be commercial day one, maybe on the two right ones. So renewable power plants, value chain is relatively commercial, but some of them is unfortunately may require some concessional financing or grant, because from a pure commercial value, it's potentially reduce or destroy capital or have very low yield like grid. But there is value in carbon capture itself. So if you can price carbon, maybe we can fund all these things as well on the left side. On the EV, basically, it's a couple of things that we look into. First of all, we see that Indonesia has a very strong automotive industry. And we see the trend that moving forward, people will shift from technology from fossil or internal combustion engine to EV. And if we don't act, we don't move this, in 20 years, maybe we'll all drive or ride imported vehicles. So that is something, now we cannot work in the Sunter, Karawang factories anymore, because if we don't have that industry, then we'll just probably import it from the people who does. Because today, automotive is such an important industry. So we need to push this, not only on the battery side, but it's also to the manufacturing side. And Indonesia is such a big market. We are the largest passenger market in ASEAN, 30% of the population, 30% of the sales every year on the four-wheelers, and even more dominant in the two-wheelers, about 50%, both in the population as well as in the sales every year. So I think Indonesia is well positioned to take the lead in this industry. We also have put several regulations today that basically provide incentives for this industry, ability to provide fiscal incentives and non-fiscal incentives, as well as to provide some sort of restriction into the ICE, basically, or the emissive, the one that use fossil fuel. So we have Presidential Decree number 55 in 2019, and also instruction from the President, and also for the letter from State-Owned Enterprise Minister that basically says you have to prioritize EV over combustion engine vehicles. And we start seeing these things. And of course, one of the keystone policy that we are waiting is this fiscal incentive that has been mentioned by a few ministers, and it should come sometime soon. In terms of alternative energy, biofuel, maybe this is somewhat controversial to some people, but the fact of the matter is Indonesia is the largest CPO plantation in the world. CPO producer in the world. 2/3 of the CPO actually come from Indonesia. And we also are a significant biofuel producer. Indonesia today produce about, say, 47 million ton every year for CPO, call it 50 million. And we actually only consume both cooking and industry, maybe about 5. For food and for soap and whatnot, 5 million. The other 10, we use it for biofuel, and the next 35 is actually for the world. And that is a lot of potential that I can show in the next slide, that this is still a lot of room for growth in this sector. We also have done mandatory program for biodiesel from say 7.5, now we are at 35% mandatory FAME content, but at some point there is no, maybe we should shoot for say 100% if we can increase productivity without, of course, deforestation. So if you look at the yield compared to other plants, palm oil is actually the most productive among edible oil, actually. And I heard right now, we can even produce 10 to 12 million tons a hectare if it's in a well-managed plantation without increasing the size. And if you look at the Indonesian yield, even by country, say compared to Malaysia, Nicaragua, Guatemala, some of these countries, we are actually still relatively low, about 3. And if we manage that right, let's say we can increase it to 5 to 6, it's conceivable that we can get 100 million tons from Indonesia in terms of CPO without, most importantly, without more deforestation. To do that in a sustainable manner, just by intensifying the result. And of course, beyond converting the CPO into biofuel, there's also a lot of potential to use the other types of waste from CPO. For example, 1 ton of CPO, or like I say 100 ton of palm oil, fresh fruit branch, will generate 20 CPO, and basically 20 CPO, 80% biomass. Some of this biomass we can be used to put it back in the soil to increase to keep the fertility, but there are some that are not, that you probably can use this high calorific biomass to burn, and you don't need to collect anymore because it's already in the palm oil factory. And there's also this waste, they call it POME, palm oil mill effluents, that every ton of CPO produced, you generate say 2 to 4 tons of POME, and that has potential to be a source for biomethane. And if you manage that properly, imagine if you can get that much. Instead of reducing it, put it as a waste, use it as a feedstock for biofuel. We also, in the industry side, we know in the world will need Indonesia in terms of EV. We have the largest nickel reserves in the world, and like most of the batteries will require nickel or critical minerals, and we have that. We don't want to be just an ore exporter anymore. And exporting ore nickel ore is not very, very green, because nickel ore only contain about say 1 to 2% nickel. So let's say 1.5%. So every 1 ton or like 100 ton that you deliver, you actually basically deliver 35% of moisture, which is water, and the rest dirt. So it makes sense to produce or to do something here, to process it in Indonesia, because otherwise that is not very, very green. So we can start from the mining, smelting and refining, and then produce this, what they call precursor, and then cathode. And then next, we already have all these global companies, state-owned enterprises, Vale, Antam, and others, IBC on the battery side. On the battery manufacturing, we cooperate with largest battery manufacturers in the world, CATL, LG. Then we need to go to EV production. So You know, like Hyundai, Wuling is already here, the SFK is already here. Honda Motor, Yamaha is already committed. We start seeing more and more of these car manufacturers, and we are currently working to add more in the portfolio. Because, as I said in the beginning, we need to have that manufacture as well. Without the car manufacturing, without the motorcycle manufacturing, we'll probably stop at precursor and cathode only. Because the battery comes together with the EV. So it's a one package. So we need to do something about that. Of course, once there's a population, you'll need the infrastructure, the charging stations, the best, and the most beautiful thing about EV is that the circular economy of the battery. If you use combustion engine, you burn fuel, it go up to the atmosphere. But if your battery is actually run out or not that's performing as well anymore, you can bring it to the recycling, and actually 99% or something can be extracted back as metal. So this is something that we need to do, and every time someone bring manufacturing technology for battery, we say you have to bring the recycling as well. We are also looking very, very seriously on the national solar PV chain. I think there are some good materials here in Indonesia in terms of silica and whatnot. The only problem today is we are currently have very relatively small solar demand in existing RUPTL or long-term plan, and that will change as we deliver the roadmap of the renewable. So wait for next few months, and also we can see there's a potential to serve the region as well if we build this industry. So our plan is to look into some of these manufacturers, and hopefully we can find opportunities to work together so that they can invest in Indonesia. Because again, it's important for a country like Indonesia to have very, very strong value chain, especially in the solar panel. Today, most of the solar panels and the value chain, it's like 80 to 90% are in China, and that is not good for the world. No other alternatives of supply. In terms of carbon market, we can be a global leader. We have very strong potential in the mitigation, and we also have a lot of this nature-based carbon credits. And we do believe that there's still a lot of room for improvement here. A lot of regulations need to be issued, markets need to be developed, such that if we can build these good markets, more money, more investment can come to Indonesia, and we can do more in this carbon capture, carbon sink, and carbon offset. We are trying also as the government to keep, restore and rehabilitate degraded ecosystem. Millions and millions of degraded land has been rehabilitated. We also rehabilitate and restore peatlands and whatnot, and we'll continue to do this as well. This is a picture for G20. So this is all the global leaders in the mangrove in Bali. So now this is in Ngurah Rai, Tahura. If you have time, you can see, I think they'll grow already. It's a very big nursery in there. And there is a dam, and you'll see also a very small, but it's the first floating solar panel that is connected to the grid in Indonesia. So that is, this place is quite interesting, and this is our showcase during G20. Carbon sink, both in terms of natural, in forest, we keep improving it. We restore carbon sink area, and also there is a lot of potential in the geologic formation, basically injecting carbon dioxide into the aquifer. So there is a very significant CO2 storage potential in the depleted reservoir and also in saline aquifers. And even in G20, there is some significant MOUs, value of agreement, about 2.5 billion between Exxon, between Pertamina, to look into this. And again, this is a potential for this country in terms of investment, and also to develop this technology to do carbon sink. So maybe to recap what we are thinking of doing, we want to do large-scale development of renewables. We want to accelerate EV adoption. We want to look into low-carbon biofuel. We want to build battery and EV ecosystem as well as the solar PV value chain. And we want to leverage our forest and our geological carbon sinks to remove and restore CO2 emissions. And of course, for the team, investors here, there's a lot of opportunities. We need this type of exuberance that last time we put for the digital economy to resolve this issue. There are a lot of capitals, a lot of talent need to be put into this to solve this issue, because this issue is very big, but it's also an existential problem for us. Maybe that is what I can say today. Thank you, everyone. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Mr. Rachmat Kaimuddin, for your informative presentation and your valuable insights. And now, next we'd like to invite Mr. Frederick, Chief Executive Officer of GenZero, on stage. Please welcome him with a round of applause.
A very good morning, Pak Rachmat, Pak Sarwono, Pak Nora, a friend of Singapore. Ladies and gentlemen, colleagues from East Ventures, Temasek Foundation. I'm excited to be here today at the Climate Impact Innovations Challenge, where I think we are celebrating the importance of creativity and innovation to scale and accelerate for climate impact. Now, this morning, I would like to take a few moments to share some perspectives on climate innovation. Why is it important? What does innovation actually mean in the context of the climate? What can we do about it? Before I begin, please allow me to briefly introduce GenZero. GenZero is a relatively new investment platform company wholly owned by Temasek, with the ambition to accelerate the deployment and development of decarbonization and climate solutions at scale globally. In our own modest way, we hope to work towards a net zero world for future generations. And our name, GenZero, takes inspiration from this purpose. So why this need to focus on addressing climate change? I think many of the speakers before me have already explained the critical importance and the existential threat that climate change poses to Southeast Asia. The topic of climate change is especially critical to our region. Southeast Asia has seen its annual mean temperature increase at a rate of between 0.15 to 0.2 degrees centigrade per decade since the 1960s, threatening the sustainability of our food systems and our farming income, which is an important part of the economy in our region. This also increases the incidence of heat strokes, heat-related deaths in the region. And we are also a biodiversity hotspot. Southeast Asia is the home to some 20% of the world's plants, animals, and marine species. Now, despite our efforts to combat climate change in recent years, Southeast Asia remains exposed to more frequent heat waves, droughts, flooding, and other sorts of extreme weather events. This threatens not just the biodiversity in our region, but also the lives and the economic well-being of our communities. Addressing climate change, therefore, is not just a necessary cost, but if we flip it the other way around, it is also a massive economic opportunity. Now, according to the Southeast Asia Green Economy 2022 report, jointly produced by Bain, Temasek, and Microsoft, there is an annual $1 trillion economic opportunity for Southeast Asia, $1 trillion economic opportunity annually for Southeast Asia by 2030, from supporting this net zero transition. There is an increasing number of startups emerging to develop sustainable solutions for Southeast Asia. In fact, the number of founder startups in 2021 had grown 13x compared to 2015. So there is a lot of early stage momentum in this space. And despite the recent progress, there is still a very large emissions gap, somewhere between 2.5 to 3 gigatons against the 1.5 degree emission pathway. So $3 trillion of cumulative investments are actually needed by 2030 for Southeast Asia to properly transition into this green economy. Now, What this means is there is tremendous demand for sustainable solutions. There are massive economic opportunities. So it is not just an economic cost, it is an economic opportunity. Now, to develop these solutions, creativity and innovation is critical. And let me now turn to some thoughts on the importance of innovation to addressing climate change. Now, many new solutions typically suffer from what we call a trilemma of quality, quantity, and cost. It is very hard to achieve all three. You want to have it a widespread, scalable solution, you want it high quality, and you want it cheap. It's usually very difficult. So if we wish to have high quality, for example, like direct air capture capability, and deployed at scale globally, this is not going to become cheap. It will be likely very expensive. So how do we break this trilemma? R&D, innovation, absolutely critical to break this trilemma and find cost-effective solutions that can be deployed at scale. Now, solutions, new solutions cannot just work in the lab. It must also be able to be scaled in the real world at a reasonable cost. So as investors, like ourselves, we have a responsibility to deploy capital towards solutions that will have the right attributes to scale and make impact. Now, in this world where there's so much capital chasing so few climate ideas, bad ideas can be sustained indefinitely with enough money, right? So normally, this will work itself out. If you have a bad idea, the markets will weed you out. But that takes time. And time is the one ingredient that we do not have when it comes to climate change. Hence the added pressure on all of us to actually get the right ideas supported. Now, we feel this responsibility at GenZero. Provided with an initial capital commitment of 5 billion Singapore dollars, we will launch in June 2022, and we invest globally across 3 focus areas: technology solutions, nature solutions, and carbon market solutions. Now, this might be a bit surprising to some of us. After all, most of our peers typically only invest in 1 or 2 of these areas, not all 3. But why do we do this? Because at GenZero, we are not a, either this or that type of an investment company. We are a this and that type of company. Why? Because there is no silver bullet to climate change. It really requires us to consider all sorts of options and approaches to solve climate change. And we cannot close our minds to possible solutions. Now, sometimes it's about seeing the same thing, but having a different perspective. I know that this is early in the morning, but if I can just ask everyone to maybe just raise your hands with a finger, right? Now, I would like you guys to all just draw a circle, clockwise direction. Just look at it, okay? This is clockwise direction. Bring the finger down and down. Do the same thing. Look at it now. What direction is it moving? Counterclockwise. Counterclockwise. You are doing exactly the same thing, my friends, right? The thing is still moving in the same direction. But when you look at it from the bottom up and you look at it from the top down, it changes from moving in a clockwise direction to a counterclockwise direction. What is the purpose of this point? Very simple exercise. When you're looking at the same thing, but you are looking at it from a different perspective, you arrive at very different conclusions. Yeah? Climate change is a little bit like that. Depends on where you sit. Right? Where you stand depends on where you sit. So, now, the point of this is not about saying both are legitimate. The point of it is saying that we need to have some humility. We need to have some humility to accept that we can look at the same thing and have different points of view. And it is a useful thing to be open-minded when we're thinking about innovation and creativity. Now, as an example, let's take the issue of plastics. In our community, plastics is, difficult topic, to say the least. But we have invested in a company in the US called New Light, which is a manufacturer of more carbon-efficient types of biomaterials produced from captured methane, which is a very serious greenhouse gas. So we have captured methane that then gets produced into a bioplastic, which is actually biodegradable. So it is displacing conventional plastics that are made from fossils. Now, they are biodegradable and plastic-free drinking straws and cutlery are already being made available for businesses like Shake Shack, right? And also even end consumers can buy it online. So it is possible to think creatively out of the box and solve our problems. Now, we know that climate change is important to address now. And we know that innovation is also necessary. So why do we all still have concerns about the progress that we are making towards climate change? I would suggest a few reasons to consider. One, is there a lack of urgency? We are all committed to climate change, but how urgently do we embrace this challenge? Now, if we think about the 6-month period, we have just come out of COVID. If we think about the 6-month period from around January to June 2020, at the start of COVID, more than $21 trillion was committed to stop COVID globally by governments and institutions. $21 trillion. COVID-19 vaccines were rolled out in a matter of less than 2 years, or in fact, within a year or so, right? Compared to the usual vaccine development cycle of somewhere between 10 to 15 years. In comparison, the UN tells us that at COP27, that vulnerable and developing countries would need up to $560 billion by 2050. But the global commitment to that number is less than a tenth, 50-something billion dollars. So imagine this, in 6 months for COVID, the world mobilized commitments of $21 trillion. For climate change today, to help some of the more vulnerable countries, the commitment is less than 100 billion, 50 plus something billion dollars. It's an order of magnitude difference. So the question before us is, are we serious? If we are serious, what would you do? Now, we know that when we were serious about COVID, we can do a lot. Is there this same level of urgency when it comes to climate? Second point, around obstacles. A lack of proper pricing. When you price something, you value it, right? Now, carbon prices, generally speaking, are a little bit too low for us to be able to change behavior, especially for hard-to-abate sectors. In Singapore, we are taking concrete steps to increase our carbon tax. Currently, it's about 5 Singapore dollars a ton when it was introduced till now. But by next year, we have announced that we're going to go up to 25 Singapore dollars per ton, from 5 to 25. And then in 2026-27, it'll go up to 45 Singapore dollars per ton. And the ambition is to reach anywhere between 50 to 80 Singapore dollars per ton by 2030. That's in about 6-7 years' time. Now, that's a meaningful step up. I know that there are still other geographies and jurisdictions that are where the price is even higher, but we need to make some effort somewhere to start, to price it properly. Within Temasek itself, our internal carbon price was already $42 per ton in the past. This year, it went up to 50 US, and the ambition is actually to slowly move this up to about $100 per ton by 2030. Why do we do this? We do this because if we price carbon correctly, we can make more carbon-aligned, climate-aligned, positive investment decisions. The third area that I think we need to think about is really the lack of harmonization when it comes to the definition of net zero and our frameworks for measurements and impact assessment on climate. For instance, 9 out of 10 business leaders believe that carbon credits will play an important role to deliver on their targets. But of course, there are still concerns. Are we measuring correctly? Is 1 ton of one carbon credit really 1 ton of carbon? Do we have confidence that this is not greenwashing? Now, we think that carbon markets, for example, will remain key as companies engage on this transition to net zero. The answer, I think, is not about throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Everything that is not quite perfect, cannot. Then we are letting perfection get in the way of good enough. And like I said just now, we don't have time. If you have time, you can go for perfect solutions. When you don't have time, we have to think quite differently. So the idea is, instead of throwing the baby out with the bathwater, how can we help to improve the integrity and quality of the carbon markets? They remain important in crowding in financing and reducing the green premium associated with introducing new solutions. Today, you find some organizations, say, for example, Microsoft and others, prepared to pay hundreds of dollars per ton in order to accelerate solutions like direct air capture and other things. Now, that becomes important. Carbon markets can allow us to be able to price and crowd in people who are willing to pay. And what can benefit? I'll give you an example. We are engaging in a project around sustainable farming when it comes to rice. Rice is responsible for some 10% of global methane emissions. And in Southeast Asia, rice cultivation accounts for as much as a third of the region's methane emissions. Now, that's very serious. And methane is particularly potent because over a lifetime, it is actually about 20-something X, right? More potent than carbon dioxide. But really, it actually stays in the atmosphere a lot less. So over 20 years, it's actually 80-something times more potent than carbon dioxide when it comes to global warming. So methane is serious. In most regions, the number one methane emitter in agriculture is cattle. But because in Southeast Asia we consume so much rice and we produce so much rice, actually rice is the number one methane emitter in agriculture in our region. So this is serious. We've got to deal with it. And worse still, demand for rice is only going to increase. The expectation is that by 2050, the demand for rice in our region will grow by 50% because of growing populations as well as growing affluence. So rice production is also a serious livelihood and economic activity. Across Asia, 400 million farmers, okay, involved in some shape or form in the rice economy. And out of these 400 million, 140 million are smallholder farmers. They are vulnerable. Now these farmers, the smallholder farmers, generally cannot cope with extreme weather events. You have one season of failed crops. It really affects their economics in order to be able to prepare for next season's plantings. So we need to protect them from climate change. So GenZero, Temasek, Wavemaker Impact, and Breakthrough Energy Ventures, which is a fund out of the US. We came together to build a platform that will focus on developing and promoting sustainable farming practices like alternate wetting and drying techniques in Southeast Asia and the rest of Asia. Now this can reduce, because it's alternate wetting, right? So it's not permanent flooding of the paddy fields. It can reduce water use by something like 30%, reduce emissions by 45%. And it's also important from a food resilience point of view. Many of the places where we are growing rice today actually are water stressed. Yeah? They are water stressed. So if we want to continue to have our rice production, we've got to think about how to be more water efficient in the way that we produce rice. So these kinds of practices don't just reduce emissions, save water, they ensure our food security, and they ensure better livelihoods for the farmers, because as we think about carbon markets, to be able to monetize the savings from the methane emissions, the money can go back to the farmers and improve their livelihoods as well. So actually this allows us to be able to do good, to do well, and to do right at the same time. So there are these win-win solutions when it comes to climate, which requires innovation, creative thinking to execute. Now, the value of, so the question is, okay, some ideas might exist. Is there money to support this? And the answer is yes. The value of private equity and venture capital sustainability investments in Southeast Asia has actually grown from just under $200 million in 2020 to over $500 million in 2021. There's a 2.5-time jump in just 1 year recently. And there has been a 20% growth in the number of impact investors in Southeast Asia. I mean, people like East Ventures have been very active. There are also many others who are actually participating now actively. Moreover, there are also other kinds of international initiatives. Pak Rachmat just now was mentioning about the Just Energy Transition Partnership, which he is leading for Indonesia. All these means that there is actually capital available. The question is, do we have good ideas? Now, the current level of activity is actually still far less from what we need to be able to unlock the potential of the region. So while many decarb technologies and innovations exist in Southeast Asia today, we need to accelerate. And it is also important to actually find solutions that address core engineering capabilities and not just simply about digital solutions and software solutions, which is actually where a lot of value creation has taken place in our region in the past. Now, the answers to some of these most critical needs might lie with some of you here in the room, certainly will lie with many of the participants that will come and take up this particular challenge, right? In fact, to make a difference by 2050, we need to identify potential solutions that are already emerging today. Why do I say that? Why is this cohort particularly important over the next few years? We will need about 10 years to fully develop these solutions, perfect the ideas, perfect the technology, perfect the business model. We will then need another 10 years to actually commercialize and scale it up and make sure that it has impact. All in all, from the time that you have an idea to the time that it actually makes a difference could be somewhere between 20 to 30 years. If we want to keep the world below 1.5, 2 degree, 2 point whatever in 2050, those ideas that will make a difference then are the ones that are coming out now. So it is important for us to have programs like the Climate Impact Innovations Challenge to identify what are some of these potential solutions and to help them to grow, help them to be perfected, and help them to get out to market to make a difference. Now, while the climate challenge before us is serious, let me conclude by saying that we should remain quite optimistic. Why? After all, human innovation, ingenuity allowed us to find a solution to COVID in months. We can. With the collective efforts from governments, businesses, civil society, young people like some of you who are in the room, all are young, okay? Entrepreneurs and innovators, we have every reason to be optimistic and to believe that we can find solutions to address climate change. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Frederick Teo, for your inspiring speech. We kindly ask you actually to return to the stage. We would love to have you back on stage for a group opportunity. And for that, we also like to invite everyone to please join Mr. Frederick Teo to be on stage with Pak Rachmat, Pak Willson Cuaca, Mr. Lim Hock Chuan, and also Ms. Avina to please come to the stage for a photo opportunity before we proceed to the next session of the event. We also invite Pak Sarwono Kusuatmaja to please kindly join us on stage. We would love to celebrate this wonderful and proud moment. It is also such a blessing to have everyone here in the same room as we put our minds together, the brightest minds in Southeast Asia, to fight against climate change and find innovators for a more sustainable way of living. Oke, kita persilakan teman-teman media. Okay, we still need you on stage, ladies and gentlemen. We apologize. Next, we would like to invite our esteemed panel of speakers that will be joining us in the panel discussion with the moderator. We invite Mr. Philip Effendi, co-founder and vice president of operations of Surya, Mr. Farid Naufal Aslam, co-founder and chief executive officer of Aruna, Mr. Ernest Lehman, co-founder and chief executive officer of Recosystem, Mr. Arden Lim, co-founder and chief strategy officer of ARIA, and also Ms. Nada Zarfania Zuhaira, sustainable business and net zero analyst from World Resource Institute, to please join us on stage for a group photo opportunity. Now everybody is on the card box stage. We can now begin. We also like to invite Pak Triawan Munaf. Bapak Triawan, boleh kami mohon kesediaannya bergabung. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, please be patient. We have another photo opportunity. I was just informed. Say one more time, Pak Willson, for another photo opportunity. We'd like to invite our esteemed guests, distinguished guests from the second row. Would you please be so kind to join us on stage? Just to make sure that we have the commemoration of the union of the best and brightest minds in Southeast Asia for another photo opportunity. We apologize for this slight inconvenience. We just want to make sure that we want to have all these best individuals that we have gathered here in this room. So maybe we can have some help from the committee to make sure that we can have the best position so everybody can be included in the picture in the best way possible. Kita persilakan kembali teman-teman media tetap mengambil posisi. And for everybody who's joining us online via YouTube, these are the amazing individuals that would help us kickstart the challenge that was launched today. Okay, we are still waiting for one more person. Pak Waikit, he's entering the room now. We apologize, gentlemen. Pak Waikit, your presence is requested, sir, on stage. Please kindly join us. Big applause, everyone. Thank you. You may now return to your seats as we will prepare the stage for the next session, the panel discussion. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Congratulations once again. And now the cardboard stage will serve as the stage for our panel discussion. Ladies and gentlemen, together we have witnessed the launch of the Climate Impact Innovations Challenge 2023, a historical moment, of course, not just for Indonesia, but also for the region, as we look for the next innovators to find the best solutions to tackle the effects of climate change. And then we also listen to the keynote speeches of today's event. And of course, from those speeches, we learn that when it comes to climate change, to sustainability, there are so many aspects and variables that needs to be discussed. Now, to shed more light on the topic, we are now moving on to the next session, which will be a panel discussion with the theme From Idea to Impact, Navigating the Climate Innovation Landscape. Now, this panel discussion will feature inspiring speakers who will share their experience in their respective fields. The esteemed panelists includes Mr. Philip Effendi, co-founder and vice president of operations of Surya, Mr. Farid Naufal Aslam, co-founder and chief executive officer of Aruna, Mr. Ernest Lehman, co-founder and chief executive officer of Recosystem, and last but not least, Mr. Arden Lim, co-founder and chief strategy officer of ARIA. Now, in this session, the speakers will share about their current climate innovation occurring in Southeast Asia, especially in Indonesia, and they will also discuss the current state of the renewable energy market opportunity in the blue economy sector, and other educational information related to navigating the climate innovation landscape. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, please welcome our moderator, Ms. Nada Zarfania Zuhaira, a sustainable business and net zero analyst from World Resource Institute, to lead and moderate the session. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Ms. Nada.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Please welcome me and also the speakers. My name is Nada Zarfania Zuhaira. You can call me Nada. I'm currently a sustainable business and net zero analyst at the World Resources Institute Indonesia. For a little context, World Resource Institute is a global environmental research or think tanks that turns big ideas into action, just like the spirit that we all have in this room today. We believe that improving livelihood while protecting environment can be achieved together. And that's why we turn our big ideas into action at the nexus of environment, economic opportunity, and also human well-being. In this opportunity, I will invite 4 of our main speakers at today's talk. The first speaker, Mr. Philip Effendi, co-founder and VP of Operations of Surya. Please come to the stage. The second speaker, Mr. Farid Noval Aslam, co-founder and Chief Executive Officer of Avina. Please come to the stage. The third speaker, Mr. Arden Lim, the co-founder and CPO of Arya. You are welcome to the stage. And lastly, Mr. Ernest Laiman, the co-founder and Chief Executive Officer of Ecosystem. You're also welcome to the stage. Okay, you may now all be seated. Thank you. Let's start. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it is very intriguing to have these 4 amazing speakers today with us. But to give you a little bit of context and to break you the news, ladies and gentlemen, Southeast Asia is currently on track to experience 3 degrees Celsius warming, while Paris Agreement has already has already set a target on limiting the warming in our world at 1.5 degrees Celsius. This builds global and also regional momentum to achieve net zero GHG emission reduction. And in getting there, we will require unprecedented levels of innovations. IPCC estimated that today's technologies have the potential to reduce global emissions by 2/3, which is very massive amounts. Therefore, the need to deploy and also develop climate innovation technologies are more urgent than ever. In Southeast Asia market today, currently 60% of climate innovation being developed are in physical form of technologies. Covering 3 most popular categories, which are agri-food, environment, and also renewables. This surveys noteworthy climate innovations, including vertical farming and also cell-cultured foods, also nature-based solution, sustainable materials, and also solar PV installation as alternatives. To build the right condition for success and also position climate innovations at the heart of meeting each country's NDC target, there are at least 4 pillars of transition that needs to be established, starting from ecosystem, investment model, policy, and also entrepreneurship, which CIIC currently contributes to answer. And in the future, with Indonesia's leadership in the Asian presidency and also Indonesia's Chamber of Commerce being head of the Asian Business Advisory Council, we believe that the potential to further mainstream climate innovation agenda will be bigger and more strategic. And also to further leverage those pillars, let's deep dive and learn together today from the climate innovators' perspective, what they are doing, the impact they're offering, and also the challenges that they are faced. So ladies and gentlemen, this is From Idea to Impact, Navigating the Climate Innovation Landscape talk. Okay. Okay, I think context is already being set, speaker and myself has already been introduced, so we are good to go. Let's first learn and understand each of the founders' why in doing what they are doing. Actually, I really want to divide these talks into like 3 phases. The first one is understanding your whys. Why did you do, what problem you are trying to solve, and then your what solution you offer, what impact you are bringing, and then your how's the solution implementation going, lesson learned, and challenges, etc. I think that will be giving us a lot of insights. But quick disclaimer, as we have 4 interesting personas with unlimited insight, but very limited time and tight topics, let's aim to answer it compactly. Okay. First one, Mr. Phillips. We are keen to learn about, to understanding your why. Can you share about the current state of the renewable energy market in Indonesia, and why did you choose to scale up the adoption of solar power among other options?
Hi everyone, my name is Philip Effendi, VP of Operations at Surya. So, just to clarify, why, what, and
how?
How? Okay. Why originally? Why? I think I started this when 5 years ago. Originally my why was to try to become successful in the best possible way. But I think now, since becoming a father, my why has been slightly changed. I think my why has become more towards creating a future that's beneficial for my son, and I think the why has becoming very important, because doing what we do is not easy, and then having the why is very important. What we do is we help commercial and industrial building owners adopt renewable energy, specifically solar, and more specifically rooftop solar. And how we do it, basically we allow these building owners to adopt renewable energy at zero cost, where we do everything from the beginning, from the surveys, analysis, construction, and until maintenance. So basically, these building owners can adopt solar with zero capital investments at the very beginning. So that's a little bit about me.
Can you share about the current state of the renewable energy market in Indonesia, Mas? And why you choose solar among others?
Right. So there are a couple ways to answer that question. I think one of the easiest to answer is in two aspects. One aspect is how easy it is to install solar, specifically rooftop solar. If we look at the landscape, rooftop solar is just basically adding value to rooftop. Initially, rooftop is just there to cover you from elements of the world, whether it's rain, whether it's the sun and everything else. By using solar now, suddenly your roof can generate power, right? And why do we focus on rooftops? Because I think in Indonesia, land acquisition is notoriously difficult, and rooftop is basically you just have to have a deal with the building owner, and that's it, right? If they want to do it, we want to do it, we come together, and that's it. It's very simple. And why Indonesia? I think we as Indonesians, at least me, I feel very blessed to be born as an Indonesian, because our country is actually very strategic. By being on the equator, our seasonality, we only have 2 seasons, whether it's hot or it's rainy. So when it's hot, we make money. When it's rain, I get free solar panel wash from the earth. So the climate is very supportive. And also, additionally, the cost of adopting solar has become very cheap since the past 10, 20, 30 years. Now it's so cheap that it's becoming more efficient than using a traditional source of electricity. So I think that's why we want to offer this to our more industrial and building owners.
Okay, interesting. For Mas Farid, what do you think are the most promising technologies and areas of growth in the ocean or blue economy sector, especially Indonesia, that then became your why?
Yeah. Talk about the why first. Yeah, so why you founded Aruna at first? Because we see the industry itself, like the ocean and maritime sector, has tremendous amount of potential here in Indonesia. We have more ocean than the land. And if you talk about fishery itself, the market size is around $25 to $30 billion itself, comparing to 170 billion ocean economic value that Indonesia has, and comparing to the world ocean economic value, $1.5 trillion in the world. So we have a very huge potential in terms of our production. In the world, we are the second and the third in terms of volume. But on the other side, in terms of the global contribution of the export seafood, we are not even the 10th. So this means there is a potential there and a gap there. So that's where we think that we can solve this problem by creating a solution that leveraging technology. So the Aruna concept itself is how we try to solve the supply chain and distribution problem in Indonesia by leveraging technology, connecting the smallholder fishermen and also farmers directly to the global market, promoting sustainability and also economic inclusivity. The technology is very simple. What we are doing is we try to optimize the data flow from the fishermen, from the market, how they know the good price for what the kind of the seafood commodity that they produce, because like a few days ago, I come back from visiting one of area in Papua. Previously, the crab there didn't have a price. But since Aruna coming in, we told them this is the commodity that the export market buying in. And now, from like less than nearly zero price, it could be like $3 for them. So that's something that by knowing the information, understanding the market situation, they can have a better income, better livelihood. So that's basically about why we're creating Aruna. And also the last thing about the founders. Other than me, there is another two co-founders named Indra Kanutari. Their family living in the coastline. So this is very related to what we are doing now. Yeah.
Very interesting take. Moving on to ecosystem. How do you think is the severity of waste management issue in Indonesia? What are the biggest challenge faced by waste management sector in Indonesia, and where do you came along?
Hello everyone, my name is Ernest Lehman, CEO and co-founder from Ecosystem. Maybe I will start with why waste important. Maybe people think like waste topic is only related about the waste collection, waste pickup that is not scaled enough. But we see it different way. Like there are more value in terms of just the collection. Like there are the value of the material of the waste. Maybe if we take a look about the presentation from Pak Rachmat earlier, that they always mention waste in terms of for the source of the renewable energy, from the source of the electricity from the vehicle, because there is always value from the waste. When we take a look about Indonesia, we are the fourth most populous countries in the world. Waste is mostly coming from the post-consumer products. So number of the waste produced in Indonesia will be increased following the number of the populations and the ability to consume. Now, if we take a look about the current waste ecosystem, we count on the informal sectors, that the productivity is very low. Now, what we are trying to do in ecosystem is bridging the gap for the waste collection that already almost collected to transport the waste to the waste processor that can be valued again into the valuable byproducts. But the challenge is sometimes the pitfall of the waste management business is they only thinking about the collection or processing. But to bridge the gap, there is like the low-hanging fruit problems in Indonesia, which is the waste sorting. Because when we do collection, all waste mix. But when we want to utilize the material and create the value, we need to sort it into the valuable materials that can be accepted by the processor. For example, in this, and what is the relevancy throughout the four topics here? For example, of the renewable energy. If we can segregate all the used cooking oil here, we can create value as the part of the biodiesel. For example, if we can segregate the battery, it can become of the source of the battery material for the electric vehicle. If we can segregate the wet organic waste, we can use from the black soldier fly to provide the animal feed for the agribusiness. And if we can tackle the plastic problem, we can save plastic to end in the oceans. So the value is there. And in Indonesia itself, the capacity of the waste supplies to the recyclers is only 20%. Some of the recyclers still take waste from the outside, from the developed country, or some even not utilize the machinery for the full capacity. So this is we need to be lesser focused on the sorting as the starting point, and that's the focus of the ecosystem. And it will not even stop there. There is not the third value that maybe I will not talk more, but the potential is more than even from the materials, but the value of the information and the impact. Plastic credit, carbon credit, you know that recycling waste is reduced 30% of the energy usage from processing from the virgin material. So yeah, the value is more than that, and it's a low-hanging fruit, and it's also create impact, so that's why we play and provide solution in our ecosystem.
Well, noted how waste impact stretches over lots of sectors, right? Okay, for Arden, what do you think? Can you share about why the food and agriculture sector requires innovation in Indonesia, and what do you think are the key success factors for startup in food and agriculture sector to exist? What are the success factors? What determines success?
I'd be more than happy to. To start up with, to provide a bit of background in context, all of us here were a product of innovation. Before the agricultural revolution, the world relies on subsistence farming. We're not even able to produce enough food to sustain ourselves, let alone produce in excess to be able to support more population growth. So this is the problem, And the moment we manage to solve this, the world managed explosive population growth. But everything, every single solution, every single technological progress always has an upper limit. And this is an upper limit that we are now going to experience in Indonesia. Indonesia right now, we have about 260, 270 million people. And by 2050, we'd probably have, give or take, 330 million. The numbers may be off a few million depending on the sources. But therein lies a particular problem. The amount of arable land in Indonesia remains the same. The amount of population will grow. There will be an increase in demand, and Indonesia is still a net importer of food. We also have an issue of soil degradation, where the way we're actually doing farming right now, we're taxing the soil. And that soil leads to soil degradation, chemical runoffs that makes that particular plot of land unable to be used for future generations. We also have another problem, which is about the part of the input themselves, the farmers themselves. Farmers in Indonesia, there are no regeneration of young farmers, mostly because it's considered the lowest paying job in Indonesia. Nobody wants to be a farmer. They get paid maybe about 50,000 rupiah a day, and that is if the crop doesn't fail. And if we take a page from history, Plato once said, necessity is the mother of all inventions. Necessity pretty much fosters innovation. Therefore, plenty of innovations, it becomes imperative in Indonesia as a need, not as a want, to be able to fix these issues. And to fix these issues, we need to be able to ensure and come up with technology so that the same amount of land should be able to produce more. We should be able to do that in a sustainable way so that we don't actually destroy the lands themselves. And we need to make it so that the solutions that we are able to scale and deploy would be able to bring farmer prosperity, so that we will bring more people into the farming sector. We will be able to solve the labor issue that we now are facing, that we are going to face, and everything is going to turn into a less than ideal place. Because if we don't fix this problem, Indonesia will be an agrarian country that can't feed its own people. And that is why innovation is a necessity, not a want anymore. And for the subjects of startups, a startup by definition is pretty much a venture, a business that is created to solve an issue, disrupt the workflow, make an improvement, or pretty much remove the problem altogether. There are many key success factors that goes into what makes a startup successful. We have a strong team, a good product, support from investors, support from the government, and pretty much strategic partners that helps make distribution possible. But as Mr. Teo said before, we are in the field of agriculture. And it's also a good thing that Willson's not here because I'm about to quote him. One thing that's important is quite close to what he calls his coconut framework. It is very important for startups to have a razor-sharp focus in building a product that is good, that is sufficient. Because one product that does its job well, again, with economic sense, it's much better than having multiple products that does nothing and nothing too much. It's better to have them good than have them half-baked. And since we are in the topic of agriculture has been said before, he or she who plants a tree does so for the next generation. Agriculture, to make your change you need, you will need to make and wait for years and decades to be able to see, to be able to make that change. So it becomes very inherently important for startups that belong in the agricultural sector to be able to live, to be able to be there, to be able to sustain themselves, to be able to pretty much keep themselves afloat so that they can actually make the change, they can actually deploy the change, because you need to be there. Because if you're not there, if you're out before you're able to make the change, then what's the point?
Well, no, that I think we've perfectly learned what problem each founder is trying to solve and their burning spirit, because they answer in such a philosophical way and thorough way. Let's move on to better understand their what, their solution to the offer, the impact that they are bringing. Okay, I'll start with Mas Farid. Mas Farid, Aruna operates in over 150 fisheries villages. Can you tell us about Aruna's initiative in the blue economy sector? And also, you've mentioned it briefly before, but can you please help deep dive on how your company leverage the technology and innovation to create those impactful solutions.
Yeah, I'm correcting the number. Now already 190 locations.
Oh my God.
So yeah, so
a big applause to Mr. Farid and Aruna.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, now we are working with 190 locations all over Indonesia, from Sumatra to Papua, 34 provinces we already cover, with 40,000 fishermen, nearly 50,000, comparing to 2 million to 3 million total fishermen here in Indonesia. Still a lot that haven't joined us yet. But in terms of coverage, we already cover all the potential island currently. So what we are doing is basically, like I mentioned previously, we focus to solve the supply chain and distribution problem. What we are doing is how we engage with the community directly by building a system, a mechanism where we build like a mini hubs where this community can sell, can understand the quality, can also store the product to our infrastructure there. So 190 location is the location of our hubs everywhere in Indonesia, and this hub is tech-enabled. So our employees using our apps to collect all the data, the transaction data there, every day with the fishermen, and then the data will be distributed along the supply chain from the hubs to the processing, to manufacturer, and then to the customers. So the customer can know the traceability and also the source where they get the product coming from. So that's something that we propose. For Aruna, currently we are working with the global markets. 60% of our product coming to the global market and 40% for the domestic markets. We're already covering like 15 countries currently in the world. So if you talk about the technology, it's not about the apps that collecting the information and distribute the information between the customer and also the fishermen, but also we're talking about the deeper technology, like focusing on IoT, how we track the movement of the boat of the fishermen, because in several countries they request to have more detailed traceability data. They want to know where their seafood coming from. So that's why we put like some GPS tracker on the fishing boat. And then the other side, we also do the R&D on the method of the farming and aquaculture that relevant to the fishermen, so they can combining the technology, not only relying on the fishing practices, but also how to implement the good aquaculture practices to ensure the sustainability of the supply. So that's basically what we are doing mostly. Yeah.
Traceability and a good agriculture practice are indeed very important for sustainable practice of companies. Yeah, so that's a very important disruption that Aruna got. Moving on to Surya and Arya, both really contributes in helping companies, helping entities achieve decarbonization and also net zero. I'll start with Surya, Mas Philip. Can you explain how Surya help companies to achieve their net zero goals in a cost-effective manner?
Okay. So I think when we meet our clients, we do not promise them we meet net zero goals, because I think it's a step-by-step process. I think with growth, with economic activity, everyone wants to reach net zero, but it's a transition process. It doesn't happen overnight. I think what we try to help people is basically through the adoption of energy, like I mentioned earlier. But if we look at solar energy, I think most people here have heard about solar energy for a long period of time. So it's not a new technology. What we are trying to solve, the biggest part, is the adoption of renewable energy. The idea of renewable energy is very common for everyone. But to make it easy for people to adopt, to make it easy for them to adopt it is the challenging part. So what we do is basically, since when we meet our clients, we tell them, hey, it's a zero capex. We basically finance the whole system for you. We do the surveys. Our surveys include electrical parts and structural, meaning we make sure that you use based on your needs, and we make sure that we install safely so that you don't have to worry about things falling down from the rooftop. And then we find the contractors who do the construction for you. And once all of those things are done, we're the one maintaining it for you. So all these three things make at least our customers have the willingness to adopt it, right? We make it easier for people to adopt renewable energy, and by maintaining it, we are very transparent. We have this platform where they can just really see what they're producing at the moment, today, at this minute. And we also tell them what their CO2 or carbon reduction is, so that they can use it however they may be. And by helping them adopt, we also help them to grow. Because one of the challenge, I think, if not many people know, most of our customers adopt solar not because they're tree huggers. Their initial reason is purely economic activity. They want to protect their revenue, they want to keep growing. And starting today, going forward, growing sustainability is the key to grow. One of our customers supplies one of the biggest furniture retailers in the world. The one with the blue and yellow located in Alam Sutra. What their buyer mentioned to them was that if you do not do any effort for sustainability, we're going to have to reduce at least 10% of our orders next year. But I think that's a good thing. I think when you put economic activity as the reason, it gives people more reason to adopt it. So we're trying to help them adopt in a fashion where we do the heavy lifting and we partner with them for the long period of time.
Creating business cases, feasible business cases, yeah, for climate solution adoption. Okay, what do you think, Mr. Arden? How can Area Solution contribute to decarbonization in Southeast Asia?
I mean, I'm with Philip here that as much as I would like to be able to say that agriculture could be a net zero, the best we can do right now is profitable mitigation. Because as the years went past, we pretty much gave way, we sacrificed climate neutrality for the ability to grow and provide for millions and hundreds and millions of people. Agriculture itself has its own inputs. And taking, for example, we're going to choose rice. I was actually pretty nervous when Mr. Teo mentioned rice because that has most of my topic already. But as he said, rice emits 3 particular greenhouse gases through emissions, which is nitrous oxide, carbon dioxide, and methane. And this is pretty much unavoidable. Nitrous oxide you get when you over-fertilize fields. That comes from nitrogen fertilizer. When that has been decomposed, it pretty much comes out to be NO2 and CO2. Methane you get from the flooding of the fields. I won't go too much detail there. And CO2 happens when you actually burn the remains, whether they be the rice husk or whatever remains of the field. So here what ARIA do, we put all of that in aspect, and we pretty much use satellite imaging, drone imaging, and remote sensing and IoT tracking, whether they be for our B2B business or B2C, so that we're able to immediately get a snapshot of a plant's health. With one look, we can tell if the plant is healthy, unhealthy, what the levels of NPK that they have on the ground, so we can immediately tell if you've been over-fertilizing or under-fertilizing your crop. But we give them to our customers in terms of bespoke, customized insights. We give them fertilizer recommendation. So the goal is to be able to reduce input while still maximizing the potential yield you can get. So no longer must customers over-fertilize. Instead, you just need to give this much. Their operation cost decreases, their yield stays the same, and everything is audited because we use drones and remote sensing so they can hold themselves accountable for the amount of savings that they manage to do. And this could be audited later because this pretty much makes emissions lower than business as usual. But what makes it most important is that their operations are lower. It is profitable for them to do so. And while doing so, they manage to do it sustainably because the land that they use no longer will be subject to as much land degradation anymore. So all of this together, because if we can save, there's about 20, 30 million hectares of agricultural land in Indonesia. If we manage to save 5–10% of all the fertilizers used, if we manage to save through the use of drones that uses renewable energy, all of the gasoline that would have been used to power all of these farm implements, that adds up to a lot. And by doing so, that's the amount of change that we're able to do.
Very well noted. What do you think, Mr. Ernest, from ecosystem's point of view, how does your company leverage technology and innovation to create sustainable waste management solutions?
Okay, I think there are two things that we do. The first thing is, as I said, is bridging the gap. We always have abundant supply of waste, but the problem is it's just end up in the landfills or buried or burned illegally in the environment. Where what we are trying to do is how we can absorb this source of material to become valuable with the waste of takers. Knowing currently waste recyclers in Indonesia supplies only 20%, another 30% coming from the outside Indonesia, and their productivity of the machines is only operate 50%. We want to utilize it, but how? Currently, the supply chain works informally. We count on the waste picker, the scavengers that work without any systems. They are roaming around into the houses, buildings, without any guarantee whether they get supply or not, whether any productive routing that they already proven. Not what we are trying to do is standardize the informal supply chain in the waste. So we are bridging the gap, become this providing the waste sorter and waste picker to connect with the waste producers, which is the township, neighborhood committee, buildings that already produce the waste. All the waste that already collected will be connected with the waste picker and waste pickup vendor that already work with us. We will create their routing to pick up in the schedule and frequency, because waste produced regularly. We don't need to do the on-demand services that have a lot of carbon emission. No, they produce every day. So we create the routing that is efficient for them and pull all the waste in the location for the sorting activity. So the informal waste pickers don't need to roaming around without any proper schedule. They just need to go into the sorting facility. What is the sorting facilities? All the TPS or temporary waste shelters. It's underutilized. It's just used as to pile up the waste. Now we're creating adding value, just a simple. Recover all the recyclable waste. Now in Indonesia, only around 7% of the waste recycled. The potential, 35% currently. So if we can increase at least 2 times the productivity into the 14 or 15% waste recycled, the income is double. The waste business is double. So if we take a look, the informal sector, currently they only gain $100 per month. Now with the ecosystem, they get up to 3x compare. It's even already made the minimum wages in Jakarta, right? Without zero travel costs, zero unproductive routing that they will spend to roaming around to collect the waste. And the interesting part is we can guarantee supply to the waste of takers, so they can stop to source from outside, from export, from the import market. They can running out more shift in their machinery to increase their productivity. And even in some cases, we also can export the waste because it's valuable and it's currently untapped. So that's the first thing. Second, the role of the technology is we open the traceability. Currently, we don't know about the value, about the information of the waste, where is the sources and what is the destination. As I mentioned beginning at the earlier, that the value of the waste is not only on the collection and also not only in the materials, but also the value of the informations. Every waste process, it's reducing, as I said, recycled 30% less energy usage compared to the conservative one. And if we take a look even longer, in Indonesia, mostly end up in the landfills. Organic waste create methane gas, 25 times more trapping heat compared to CO2, right? Now, plastic sometimes buried or illegally burned. 1 ton of plastic can create around 2 until 3 tons of CO2. So imagine if we can trace and measure them, another value putting in the value chain that can also increase the business size, then appetite for people to invest, to believe in this waste market, and also improve the value chain. So the traceability here is also quite important to increase every value from waste managed, because it's not, we don't need the environmentally method only. In the waste sectors, to create the confidence, we need some things that economically viable.
It's what we are doing is already environmental friendly, but what we need to do is the economically friendly, and this is how we can improve through the traceability and technology.
Very interesting. I believe indeed creative problem solving stems from robust problem and context understanding. As we see, all of the founders here really understand the end-to-end process of what the solution that they are proposing, so they know the right intervention points, and they're very confident about it, and makes us confident too to implement, to try their products too. Okay, moving on to the how, and this is also the last questions for all the panelists. How's the solution implementation going? I'll try start from Mr. Arden. How can agri-tech company like Arya ensure that the solution create a meaningful impact while addressing the needs of your customers? Yes, you know, your sector touch base on the human's basic needs, right? So yeah,
correct, yes.
Balance will be the key. So how do you do it?
Well, Arya handles more than just farming. We also do forestry, we do agriculture B2B and B2C. But since the focus is on the B2C, we are lucky enough that all of our solutions are pretty much brings value to the customers themselves. Even when we break down everything to the most modular levels, at the very, very smallest levels, when we're talking about the smallholder farmers, what we ensure, how we provide value to them is quite simple. We've taken road trips to Aceh where we talk to the local farming groups, and we simply sit them down. We sit them down, they provided us with 1 hectare of their land, we give them some food, we give them a cigarette, and we pretty much tell them, please enjoy the dish. Because normally, to take care of this one field, it takes them about 3-4 people for one whole day. And every single laborer is probably around 80,000, so let's just say pukul rata 350,000. And that's one whole day. And when we do, we sit them down, we give them food, and before they have finished their meal, before 10 minutes has passed, we tell them, "Pa, your entire field has been sprayed. This is the actual report. I can guarantee you that every single inch of your field receives equal fertilizer or equal chemicals. And guess what? It's cheaper than what you normally pay." At the very basic, that's what we're able to guarantee. The moment we get more into the plant health, the moment we go to fertilizer management, that's where more and more and more of the value chain starts to show themselves. And when you get to the B2B sector, we can do the same. It's extremely scalable, and we can do that for 10,000 hectares, 100,000 hectares. We can map out every single field that you have. We can map out every single block that you have, count every tree, manage fertilizer input. Also gives worker trackers and remote sensing to make sure that all of these insights, all of your 100,000 or 10,000 workers down in the field has done what they're supposed to do. So we focus more on the input. We focus on the workflow. And we make it so that the main goal of what we do is to be able to let customers reach their maximum potential yield while lowering their cost. So this brings a need or willingness for them to onboard themselves.
Okay, no, thank you, Mr. Arden. Due to the limited time, I'll start the Q&A session. So I'll be receiving questions from both the online and offline audience. Let's pick maximum 3 questions. Is there any offline audience that would like to ask questions to our respective panelists? Rest assured, I will also add the last questions to this. Any? Okay.
Good afternoon, all the speakers. It's been an honor to actually listen to what you guys have been doing. I've been hearing a lot about your startups as well. So we've been actually talking about how you actually do in terms of contributing to climate, journey. My questions will be like, how do you see actually climate change might be a risk to what you're doing, to your companies, to your products, and etc. And how do you feel the importance of collaborations in terms of dealing with it? Thank you.
Well noted. Can I ask Mr. Philip to answer first? Plus, you may also answer another question, which is the biggest challenge you face. Maybe it will be related somehow.
Pak, sorry Pak, pertanyaan saking bagusnya saya terpersona sedikit lupa bagian nomor 2. Nomor pertama, impact-nya ke kita apa? What's the second question?
Sorry. By the way, my name is Dika. I'm from WRI Indonesia as well. The second question is, what's the importance of collaborations?
Importance of collaboration. Yes. Okay, thank you. So I think the biggest impact, at least for us, is the weather becomes unpredictable. So when we do whatever, every project that we do, we try to estimate, a couple of years in the future based on historical performance. So we say 10 years ago, this is the typical weather all year round. There are cycles, always cycles, and the cycles has been always pretty stable. Now, I think if many of you are experiencing is, we're in February and it's still raining. Normally, rain only happens during October, November, December, probably maximum January. Now it's February, some places are flooded. And how it's impacting us is, during seasons when we think we can generate a lot more power from the solar we installed, it's actually becoming less. So we see the impact of climate affecting our predictions, affecting our performance. However, I think the way we do it is we try to extend our assumption based on historical performance and our experience. And why is it important to collaborate? I think it's super important to collaborate. I think what I want to clarify to everyone, I'm not saying everyone just go solar and ditch oil, ditch coal. That's never going to be possible. We all have to play nice together. It's an energy mix, not energy dominant, right? We all have to play nice together. So it's very important for us to collaborate with our clients. It's very important for us to collaborate with the governments. It's very important for us to collaborate with just everyone, because I think we want to do this. I mentioned my son, but I think at the end of the day, we want to do this for ourselves and eventually affecting everyone. And the only way we can do it is by collaborating. And even for us, like right now, we already have 100 locations. Indonesia has 82 million buildings. So without collaboration, it's never going to be possible. So I think it's very, very important.
Answered, Mr. Rika. Okay, thank you so much. Do we have questions from the online audience? Not yet? Okay, if not, then we'll proceed to Mr. Farid answering the same question and also adding about your biggest challenge in successing Aruna.
Yeah, if you talk about the coastline community, is one of the most affected community in terms of the climate change, right? Because there's 120 people living in the coastline, 120 million people, sorry. So if you talk about Aruna, we really care about that one. So that's why we try to making Aruna, if there's no one that really care about this one, there's no one that can help them. So that's why we want to work with the coastline community, especially for the fishermen, how they can still getting an income in more sustainable way. The first thing what we are doing is they focusing more on data, like choosing the right commodity that can have more value in the market. So that's the one thing. And the second thing, how the less can be more. So they produce less, but they have a better quality, or they can process the product directly in the villages. So that's where they get more income. So what happened in Aruna, mostly based on the data that we are working with the third-party assessor, their income is increasing by 2 times. But the volume that they produce is less. So that's why they most focusing on the quality and also the processing, the value-added things. The second things, currently they mostly rely, especially for the fishermen, if we're not talking about the farmers, the fishermen rely on the local custom, the local knowledge. They seeing the start to understand the seasonality. That's currently very hard because the climate change, everything. So that's why we help them to understand the change of the seasonality based on the historical data that we have. It takes us along the way, like 2 or 3 years, we focus on digital transformation, how we digitalize all the community. It takes us 3 years. Now we already harvesting the data and try to help them to understand the movement of the seasonality. And in terms of the challenge, that's the one thing. And the other things, how we transform the way they produce the fish. Like we train them how to implement the aquaculture process, like lobster, they mostly get from the fishing. Now they do the lobster farming. So that's what we are doing. We convert them, we educate them step by step to them. And we are doing R&D on that too, like lobster and also crab. And the last thing about the collaboration, right? The collaboration things, that's the one thing that also we are doing currently with the community. So if you talk about the fishermen, there is like Indonesia, we call tengkulak, we call the middleman. Sometimes as a technology, people think us as a disruptor, changing all the people player here. But what we are doing is not like that. Like tengkulak, they are the local influencer there. Sometimes we can work with them. The goal is not to changing their jobs, but how to make their process efficient, how to make their process is sustainable. Like how we manage their fishermen together, we train them how to have a better quality control, and then we make them how they understand the market better. The one that we cut is the only one that only giving the information without value added. But sometimes the tengkulak, they are also working with their own fishermen, but they didn't know how to produce a better quality or better product in their facility. So that's in terms of collaboration. We collaborate with the locals using the technology and empower our technology there in simple way. Yeah.
Thank you, noted, Mr. Farid. Any other offline audience that wants to ask questions to the panelists? Okay, if not, I'll proceed. The last question to Mr. Ernest. What do you think are the key factors that led to the success of your solution? And quickly, your plan and vision for Indonesia in solving the waste management challenges.
Okay, I think the key success of what we are doing is the focus, one thing at a time. We cannot do and solve everything simultaneously. We need to be laser focused with the most pressing pain point in the value chain. As I mentioned, some of the waste management or climate focusing on the things ideally. But if you want to create impact and scale, we need to be very laser focused with the low effort, high impact. So that's why we are growing and with the good financial, economically viable, as I mentioned previously, because we are really focused. In this case, we're solving in the sorting activities for recyclables. We don't touch the organic, we don't touch about the refuse derived fuel, we haven't touched about the electronic yet. See, because the recyclables still low rate, but the opportunity to grow is there. But whether is it the right time or not, we need to be choiceful. So the key success is not become a one-stop solution, but become the best solution in the one things that matter most in the waste value chain. Regarding about the waste problem itself, currently a good thing is it's, to be honest, economically viable. The gross profit margins is even better compared to any trading or distributions type of materials. Now it's just the matter how we can standardize the informal value chain that currently the capacity only 20% for supplies, since another 30% coming from outside, cut the outside, just supplying, give the guarantee. Second, put the belief for the one that own the machine to open the shift to increase the capacity of the machine, because as I said, underutilized. Currently they just only utilize 60% of the machine capacity. If they increase the shift, like the demands will be always there. Because when we talk about waste management, it's not like demand creation game. The demand is always been there as long as we need the materials and alternative materials. But it's just like a supply security game. Who can guarantee the supply? Currently the informal sector. No one cannot or won't believe or invest to absorb. But now, through our ecosystem, we can bridge the gap. So that's how we can disrupt the waste management.
Noted. Okay, that marks the end of our discussion. After a very fruitful discussion, we've reached the end. As closing, can each speaker please give one sentence message to the aspiring team that are applying to the Climate Innovation Impact Challenge competition? We start from Mr. Arden. One sentence, please.
Might be more than one, is that okay? Because as said before, when we're talking about net neutrality, we're trying to get to zero carbon. The issue itself at the G20 event says it is a universal global effort. So there is a lot of sectors that play in place. So you need to be sure which part of the value chain do you belong in. Once you identify that, then work on a solution. And remember to always collaborate with the others as well, because it is a group effort.
Thank you, Mr. Arden. Mr. Ernest?
I think, as I said, one thing at a time, really laser focus on what matter most in the value chain. Because we play in the industry that there is no proven benchmark. We need to prove the benchmark that this is the business that is
investable, this is the business that is interesting to be scaled. So focus really on one thing that really matter most in terms of the business, in terms of the impact to the environment, in terms of the impact to the value chain is things that we need to consider when we play in the climate innovations.
Noted. Mr. Farid.
Yeah, I think I agree with the focus, that one. So that's why we need to invite other people to collaborate, because we only expertise in one area, and we need more people to come into this sector. Like if you talk about the ocean, if we focus on that one, we can preserve more carbon comparing to the forest, right? So there is one area in like ocean that people still like very limited amount of people that really contribute to this sector. So I invite more people to coming in, and let's collaborate together.
Noted. Mr. Philip, last but not least.
For me, I think just work hard every day and think long term. I think it's very simple, right? If you do 1% change every day for the rest of the year, you'll make a big change. So just, try to work hard and work hard for the longest time in your life, and everything will move towards the good stuff.
Okay, thank you so much everyone for coming. A big applause for all of our speakers. Hope this discussion enlightens you as much as I'm enlightened today. Panjang umur climate tech, or onwards and upwards always to the climate technology innovations. After this, we'll be giving all of the speakers a token of appreciation, so don't leave the stage yet. I'll give it back to the MC. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Nada. Let's give another big round of applause for our esteemed panel of speakers. Thank you, gentlemen, for sharing with us your time and your expertise. Ms. Nada, once again, thank you for moderating. And now, as a token of appreciation for our speakers, we'd like to invite Mrs. Avina Sugiarto to please present the speakers and the moderator with tokens of appreciation from the organizing committee. Okay, I think the photographers would like to have a picture first with the speakers, Ms. Nada, and also Mrs. Avina Sugiarto, partner of East Ventures. And now Mrs. Avina will present the first token of appreciation to Mr. Philip Effendi, co-founder, vice president of operations of Surya. Thank you, Mr. Philip Effendi, for your time. And next to Mr. Farid Naufal Aslam, co-founder and CEO of Aruna. Thank you also to Mr. Ernest Lehman, co-founder and chief executive officer of Recosystem. Last but not least, Mr. Arden Lim, co-founder and chief strategy officer of Arya. And for leading and moderating the discussion, to Ms. Nada Zarfania Zuhaira. Shall we take another picture with the plaques? Thank you very much once again to our esteemed panel of speakers. Mrs. Avina, you may leave the stage for now, but we'll be needing you soon on stage for the next session. We're first going to prepare the stage for the next session that I'm sure everybody is very excited about. We'll be hearing a presentation about the Climate Impact Innovations Challenge 2023, which was just launched today, and we all witnessed this together. Of course, there's a lot of excited to-be participants, so please do not miss this next session. We also like to remind everyone that after everything is wrapping up on stage, we will have a lunch session. Delectable menu has been prepared by the staff right here at Hutan Kota Pelataran. You can also enjoy the beautiful surrounding, the greenery, and also make the best of this opportunity to network with everybody here. But for now, I would like to invite back onto the stage Mrs. Avina Sugiarto, partners at East Ventures, to go on stage and deliver her presentation about the Climate Impact Innovations Challenge 2023. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome on stage Mrs. Avina Sugiarto.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I'm sure everyone is hungry, so I will keep my session very, very short. The lunch is, I think, is ready on the side here. My name is Avina. I'm a partner at East Ventures. We are the most active venture capital in Southeast Asia. So first and foremost, I'd like to thank Pak Sarwono for being here today. Pak Rachmat Kaimuddin, who is providing quite a lot of enlightening messages for us this morning. Pak Frederick, CEO of GenZero, who we are honored to have this morning as well to share a lot of the initiatives on investments in climate technologies. Pak Bun Hyong, of course, Mr. Lim as well, our wonderful partner for the challenge. Pak Darmono, we have Pak Darmono also here, Pak Satrio, and many, many friends and partners who are joining us today. So thank you so much for supporting the initiatives, and we look forward to the collaborations together. In Indonesia, there is a saying, tak kenal maka tak sayang. And it means if you don't know, then you don't love, right? So I'm just gonna start a little bit about introducing Climate Impact Innovations Challenge and about Temasek Foundation and East Ventures. Climate Impact Innovation Challenge, or CIIC, is Indonesia's largest climate innovation tech platform of the year, brought to you by East Ventures and Temasek Foundation. Climate change has been the most pressing issue in our generation, and hence we need to scout, support, collaborate, and invest in solutions that can mitigate climate change. Today, from Pak Rachmat, the Deputy Minister of Marves, from Frederick, CEO of GenZero, we hear how Southeast Asia and Indonesia can be disproportionately impacted by the effect of climate change. Yet, at the same time, it can create opportunities for us to grow new innovations and business models in new sectors that today are still nascent in the country. This challenge provides opportunities for the tech innovators to showcase your idea, your pilot projects, and your sustainable innovations. Our partner, Temasek Foundation, has supported a diverse range of programs to uplift lives and communities in Singapore. Indonesia, we worked together with Temasek Foundation to bring a lot of oxygen concentrators last year during the height of the COVID Delta pandemic. And we are very grateful to have Temasek Foundation who work closely with us to make this challenge a success. As Ventures, we are a pioneering and leading sector-agnostic venture capital firm which has transformed into a holistic platform that invests in seed to growth stages and invests in over 250 tech companies across Southeast Asia. We've been named the most consistent top-performing VC fund globally by Prekin and the most active investor in Southeast Asia and Indonesia. We are very excited to scout and discover climate tech startups in this region through this challenge and through the collaborations. As we have seen in the ceremonial event earlier today, we have 4 tracks for the challenge. The first one is renewable energy, where we seek ideas and innovations that can disrupt how we generate electricity through renewable energy, PV supply chain, improve energy efficiency in a low-cost and inclusive manner. Mobility, in terms of connecting and connectivity, being improving the economic and social access. As Pak Rachmat mentioned today, Indonesia has 50% of Southeast Asia consumer two-wheeler market in Southeast Asia. We need to balance the transition to a low-carbon transportation as we seek new ideas and support the growing demand for sustainable mobility and supply chain. Food and agriculture, very, very important topic as we all talk about food security in our nations. The unpredictable weather continue to haunt our sustainability of food systems. We look for innovative solutions to transform and improve the way we plant, produce, and distribute our foods more sustainably. Ocean has been a critical aspect to feed the population, regulate the climate, and generate most of the oxygen on Earth. Development of blue economy is very important as we seek solutions that utilize marine resources sustainably and ensure the welfare of coastal communities. Going into the program timeline, so today is our launch event, so very, very happy to be here with all of you. We will have a 3 months open application process, so very excited to see a lot of submissions for this challenge. We will have a review at the end of May to early June and conduct interview calls and special committee sessions in the month of June. Thereafter, the 12 finalists will be announced by June 2023, and we will have the mentorship during the month of July and grand finale in September, whereby I think the applicants that we are looking for in this challenge will need to meet these criteria. Right? So I'll just go through these 5 criteria that we'll be looking for. The first one is a pilot to create an MVP, minimum viable product, with intention for commercialization. Number 2, it needs to be an original and innovative proposal. Number 3, it proposes an impactful solutions that addresses key challenges in one of the 4 tracks: renewable energy, food and agriculture, mobility, and ocean. Number 4, presenting a feasible solution that can be adopted quickly and perform well in a large-scale setting. And number 5, has a potential for commercially viable solution with a large market access. this is the most exciting slide. So thanks to Temasek Foundation, we have a total prize of 10 billion rupiah for the winners in the 4 tracks. And in addition to that, we also have other benefits, including global exposure, access to investors, and many other exclusive perks. We have many partners here. We have an investor partner, Telkomsel Mitra Inovasi. We have challenge partners who are providing various benefits and perks as well to the participants and the winners. We have Bibit, Fore, Google, Clareco Communications, Liberty Society, Sociola, Tech in Asia, World Resource Institute Indonesia, and Hutan Kota Pelataran. We also have outreach partners, 7.5 Degree, Block 71, Daily Social, Ecosystem, Impacto, Katadata, Kinobi, KR Asia, Meranti, TechNote Global, and Thai Startup. And we're looking for more partners as well as we collaborate through this journey. Okay. So this is my last slide for today. Join us now. Please submit your submissions and come to us, reach to us for partnerships as we scout through more climate innovations in Indonesia and overseas. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Avina, for your presentation. Let's give her another round of applause for that insightful presentation. Boleh tepuk tangan sekali lagi yang paling meriah. Thank you for your presentation on the Climate Impact Innovation Challenge. We thank you for your time and also for sharing all that information. Ladies and gentlemen, honored guests, we have finally come to the end of today's event. Thank you once again to our distinguished speakers, to our partners, our sponsors, to our media friends who have attended, and to the whole East Ventures and Temasek Foundation team for your time and participation. We'd like to say thank you, of course, as well to all of our invited guests for your enthusiasm and your attention throughout the event. And for the climate tech innovators out there looking to make a real impact for climate change, look no further than the Climate Impact Innovations Challenge. By submitting your innovations, not only do you have a chance to win a share of the prize pool, but you will also receive global exposure and gain access to a network of investors and industry experts. But that's not all. By participating in this challenge, you'll be joining a community of like-minded individuals who are passionate about finding innovative solutions to tackle the climate crisis in Indonesia and beyond. Together, we can make a real difference and create a sustainable future for generations to come. Let's put our hands together one more time for the future of Indonesia and beyond. And of course, as we said before, to close the day, we now like to invite you all to enjoy the delectable menu which has been prepared by Hutan Kota Pelataran for a lunch and networking session. But before I leave the stage, please allow me to once again say thank you to all of our partners and supporters, to our investor partners, Telkomsel Mitra Inovasi, to our challenge partners, Bibit, Fore, Google, Clareco Communications, Liberty Society, Hutan Kota by Pelataran, Sociola, Tech in Asia, and World Resources Institute Indonesia, and also to our outreach partners, 7.5 Degree, Block 71 Indonesia, dailysocial.id, Ecosystem, Impact2, Katadata, Kinobi Indonesia, KR Asia, Malaysian Research Accelerator for Technology and Innovation, TechNote Global, and Thai Startup. May I please ask for you to put your hands once again for these partners, because without their collaboration, of course, this challenge will not come to fruition. And again, I invite all of you to please visit www.climateimpactinnovations.com, and don't forget to follow our Instagram at CIIC_C to get more information about the Climate Impact Innovation Challenge 2023. Lastly, I'm Siska Becker. On behalf of the organizing committee, it's been such a pleasure to be standing on the cardboard box stage and be a part of history with all of you today. I look forward to seeing you in future events at the next program of the Climate Impact Innovation Challenge. Until then, please take care, stay healthy, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you, everyone.
a fast-paced life. Our days begin and end in the same way, trapped by repetition and routine. We go on about our days like usual, but unconsciously, our decision changes the course of how the world operates. Little did we know, the world is changing. We are facing a serious threat of climate change, and no one in this world is immune from it. The world is facing one of its most important challenges, reaching net zero emissions by 2050. Every year, we produce an unbelievable amount of greenhouse gas emissions. If all the ice at the poles and on mountaintops were to melt, the sea level would rise by 216 feet. This is enough to submerge 15 floors of a building. There is an urgent need for the world to act immediately. Coming off a low base, venture capital funding for climate tech companies in Southeast Asia saw a rapid increase in the last 5 years. However, Indonesia has only received 13.1% of total funding since 2012, which is a big difference compared to its neighboring country, such as Singapore, with 80.4% of total funding within the same period. We believe there is still much that we can do to work hand in hand in overcoming this challenge. This year, East Ventures and Temasek Foundation present Climate Impact Innovations Challenge, or CIIC, Indonesia's largest climate innovations tech platform of the year. This initiative is aimed to provide opportunities for tech innovators to demonstrate their sustainable innovations in addressing ecological challenges and mitigating the impacts of climate change. The teams will compete in 4 tracks for a total prize pool of 10 billion Indonesian rupiah. The 4 tracks of the challenges are renewable energy, new ideas, innovations, and technologies that disrupt how we generate better adoption and distribution of renewable energy and improve energy efficiency in a low-cost and inclusive manner. Food and agriculture, new innovative solutions to transform and improve the way we plant, produce, and distribute our foods more sustainably. Mobility, new ideas as new services, platforms, and technologies to support the growing demand for sustainable mobility and supply chains. Ocean or blue economy, innovative solutions to utilize marine resources sustainably to ensure the welfare of coastal communities. We believe solving these issues requires innovative solutions. Prepare yourself as we challenge you to become the agent of change.